Hello, everybody. Good to see you guys this morning.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm trying to fit both of our faces in one screen.
Up close and personal again.
We probably needed our camera holder.
You'd think we would learn how to do panoramic.
To go landscape. Because right now we're portrait.
Portrait.
I had a really hard time for a really long time trying to say the word portrait.
She would say portrait.
Portrait.
I had to work with her. I had a little bit of a background in speech therapy, so I would work with her. Portrait.
Yeah. Okay. So.
How we doing?
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. It is August 6th.
Yep.
That means that we are 3 days away from a really big event.
August 9th.
Which is?
Sunday.
Molly's birthday. Molly, you are going to be, I have to figure this out, 51, 47, right? You're coming up on 47?
None of your business. But I'm the young one.
You are the young one.
In the family.
You're also the young one of the two twins.
That's right. So we thought we would share the screen again today. I have to get so close to you. And share something. And Kevin had this idea that we would each share a proverb. And I gave in. I waved the flag, the white flag of surrender. Thank you for the birthday wishes.
That's right, Thrive Vineyard. Okay, so what we were going to do today is, because Molly was so excited about it, is we are going to each share a proverb that is speaking to us, something that is meaningful to us, something that we're getting some life out of. And as you guys know, there is so much wisdom in the Word, and we don't talk that much about wisdom these days anymore. But the wisdom of God will change our lives. And so, in addition to being a kingdom community, in addition to being a Spirit-filled community, in addition to being a biblical community, we want to pursue the wisdom of God, because the wisdom of God literally will make our lives so much better. So yeah, Mal, do you want to share?
Sure.
Do you want to share just a proverb that jumped out at you lately?
Sure.
What?
Nothing.
What are you laughing about?
Nothing. These just make me laugh. Okay, so I'm going to share something from Proverbs 8. And in Proverbs 8, here is the context. I love how wisdom is portrayed. Mm-hmm. It's not a portrait.
Portrayed, I believe it is.
And wisdom is, you get to this glimpse of wisdom is personified as a master craftsman working alongside God in the creation of the universe and the marking of the foundations of the earth and the heavens and even like the sea and its limits. And it goes on to say this about wisdom. We get this brilliant picture of this master craftsman. And this is not like your DIY slime making, tie-dye making project. This is like the ultimate creation, right? Of establishing the physical realm that we live in and the spiritual realm that we live in. But this is what it says about wisdom. It says this, hear instruction and be wise and do not disdain it. Sorry, I started a little early. I wasn't going to include that scripture. But here's what it said. Blessed is the man who listens to me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at the posts of my doors. So I love this picture of like, here's what blessing in your life looks like. Watching daily at my gates, at wisdom's gates, waiting at the posts of my doors. For whoever finds me, wisdom, finds life. And again, wisdom wants to be found, right? You think about a gate or a door. When we watch doors, aren't we watching because we know something's going to come through, right? Like something's going to make an entrance through that into our home, into our life. So this picture of like watching for the posts of our lives, watching for gates and the doors for wisdom to come through, like waking up in the morning, watching daily, watching consistently. For whoever finds me finds life and obtains favor from the Lord. And so I have just been thinking about that in terms of like, what am I anticipating as I wake up in the morning, as I'm looking to my day, looking to what is ahead of me, the tasks. Sometimes I just get overwhelmed by like what does the body need in these days? What should I be teaching? How do we help our leaders engage? And I can get really overwhelmed until I watch for the gates and the doors. I watch for wisdom to walk in, and it's an anticipation, right? Expecting these things, that wisdom will come, that it's laying out for us this pattern that we can have these things in our lives daily. But instead of watching my news feed, watching what other people are doing or saying, watching for what looks like success in other people, I'm watching for the wisdom of God that was alongside God in the creation of the universe.
That's really good. That's really good. Yeah, I think that if we started so many of our kind of our decision-making processes, if we approached so many, different areas of our lives by just asking the question, like, what is the wise thing to do? Like, before we do anything else, we just simply ask that question, like, what is the wise thing here? That would like point us in such a good direction, and it would kind of keep us from so many kind of like so many bad decisions, so many places of like, oh my gosh, I have so much regret around that. If we just at least knew what the wisdom was, knew what the wise thing
of
to do
God.
is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Not just even like what seems like the wise thing from my perspective, but like the wisdom of God coming into my life in this moment.
The challenge for me though is that I know very often I know the wisdom of God. It's putting the wisdom of God into action.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how do you have any suggestions in terms of like, okay, like, how do we actually live wisely? How do we put this wisdom that we're aware of into place in our lives? Like, how do you do that for yourself? How do you act wisely? Like, how do you get yourself to do the wise thing?
That's a good question. I think it's more for me, what the source that I'm looking for. I think that's what this is speaking to, is really what's the source of the wisdom, and anticipating that as I open up my hands and lay out the things that I'm concerned about or trying to figure out, asking for God's thoughts and his wisdom on those things, watching for those things to enter into my life, and waiting until I sense his direction and his peace and his wisdom. So, I don't know I don't know exactly if you're looking for something else in that question, but I don't have like a specific example of like, these days, I'm looking for wisdom on how to lead the church and what people need in these days. And so I'm looking to the Lord for I'm listening, I'm asking him to show me, and then I'm waiting till I sense his voice in things and discerning, pulling out the things that maybe there are other reasons on why I'm trying to do things, and just waiting for his wisdom on what people need. And then I capture a lot of it through journaling. So that's where I'm at, is I listen, I wait, I listen, I look for these things, and then I capture them in journal, and then I try to move forward with those things. So, but
I know that you don't only seek the wisdom of God through the word or through scripture, but you're a person that actually seeks the wisdom of God through other people on a really, really regular basis too, right? I mean, like, we're always kind of, gathering teams and asking for input and asking people's opinions.
Yeah.
Because we know that we're surrounded by godly wisdom too in people, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. Good.
What's your proverb?
Okay, so my proverb is it's Proverbs chapter 19, verse 11. I'm going to scooch this over just a tiny bit so you get at least
a little more Kevin face.
3/4 of my face. So Proverbs chapter 19, verse 11. This is one that I am perpetually working on. And it goes like this: a person's wisdom yields patience, and it is to one's glory to overlook an offense. A person's wisdom, a person who is wise, the yield of that, the product of that, the outcome of that, the fruit of wisdom is patience. And it is to one's glory to overlook an offense. And this for me is such a challenging proverb. It's one that I'm always working on. I think if I could maybe bless myself to be a ninja black belt at any proverb, in scripture, this might be the one that I care most about. And there's a couple of reasons for this. A spiritual reason, one that might be compelling at some point in life. Maybe it's not the most compelling reason right now, but I'll tell you this for sure. If we lean into this wisdom to be the type of people that are able to overlook a wrong, it makes us just like Jesus. It puts us in the company of Jesus himself. This was a defining characteristic of Jesus's life, of his ministry. And so like in Matthew chapter 5, verse 44, we're into the Sermon on the Mount here. And this is the end of the Beatitudes. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 44, Jesus said this, but I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And so you know how difficult this is. It's sometimes difficult to love people that aren't your enemies, that are doing just fine by you. But for us to be able to love a person that is actively working against us, or at least a person that we perceive as doing that, oh my goodness, this is so hard. But when we are able to embrace this, when we're able to overlook an offense, man, that makes us just like Jesus. That really glorifies God. That's why it says it's to one's glory to overlook an offense, because this was the glory of God, to overlook our offenses. The other thing, though, that overlooking each other's offenses does is it makes us really free. It keeps us free, because you guys know this, that when we get hooked by other people's behavior, when we get lassoed by wrongdoing, and we get all bound up and tied up by our anger and our resentment and our frustration, we actually are enslaved by that. When we cannot forgive, we are enslaved by that lack of forgiveness. And you can feel it, right? You can feel it in your heart, that bitterness, that anger, that frustration. And so a lack of grace and a lack of forgiveness, an inability to overlook an offense, really is an invitation to be enslaved by it. And it just opens up a door for the enemy to work. And that the inability to overlook offenses is incredibly destructive in relationships. Like we've dealt with this some in our relationship. We deal with it. We see our kids do it. I mean, it is so damaging to a relationship. Do you have any thoughts on that before I keep going?
No, it's good.
Okay. And so the other thing that I think is really, really powerful about this is, so it has incredible power on both sides. The lack of an ability to overlook an offense is destructive, but our ability to overlook an offense, our ability to let stuff just roll off our back, to just not even make it a point to just like completely, like not even get to the point of forgiving, but just where it's like, hey, they're just having a bad day, not even going to worry about it. We're all good here, and we keep on going. When we do that, what we're actually doing is we can know that we're going to reap what we sow, right? Paul said in the book of Galatians that we will reap what we sow. And so if we sow to please our sinful nature, we're going to reap destruction. So if we sow to please that part of us that wants justice right now, that wants to be right now, Paul is really clear. The Bible is really clear that we're going to reap destruction in our own hearts and in our relationships. But on the other hand, if we sow grace, if we sow forgiveness, if we sow that incredible thing of just overlooking offenses, even when people deserve whatever it is that we want to give them, when we do that, what we're doing is we're actually paving a way for blessing for ourselves. We're actually putting grace into our future. We're putting mercy right into our future. We know that that's going to come back, not just in eternity, but it's going to come back really, really quickly, because it won't be long before we need the grace. And that person they're going to have experienced our grace. And so it's going to be really, really powerful. And so I'll wrap up by saying this. I was listening to a sermon from one of my favorite guys. His name is Erwin McManus. And he was actually just doing like a little panel thing, and they were talking about marriage, and they were talking about forgiveness really, really briefly. And the person that questioned him said, hey, what's the one thing that you would want every married couple to know? And this is true of married couples, but it's true of any relationship that we have at all. But he said, what's the one thing you'd like married couples to know? And McManus said, if I had to boil it down, I would say that overlooking people's wrongdoing is the number one thing that I would encourage people to do. And he said this, and this was really powerful for me. He said, if you cannot forgive, you have to admit that you are the weaker person in that exchange. Like if we have an inability to forgive, if the person in front of us is more able to forgive, more quick to forgive, and we hold on to our stuff, then we have to admit that we are the weaker person in this situation. And that's actually really, really liberating. And the reason why it's liberating is because once we get to the point, if I say, man, I just cannot forgive you, I am so upset with you, that may be true. But if I come to a point of realizing that that's a weakness of mine, all of a sudden it puts the responsibility of that in my court. No longer am I held bondage by the fact that nobody treats me right and Molly's never going to do right by me and I'm always getting the short end of the stick. No, if I can't forgive, if I can at least say, I can't forgive because that's an area of weakness in me right now. That means that I am taking control, that I have power, because if it's my issue, then I have the ability to change it. If it's my issue, then I have the ability to do better. If it's my issue, then I have the ability to grow. And that's actually really, really liberating. And so this is an area that I'm working on. I want to start overlooking when
I give you lots of content. I give you lots of content.
Right. Yeah. No. But like, regularly, right? It happens a million times a day. The kids leave the dishwasher open, or they, leave the lights on at night, or
fiery hot peanuts. For some reason, we came outside today to a packet of ghost pepper peanuts
on our front steps. Yeah, we don't know why.
Morning, fiery hot peanuts.
And so we could get mad at the kids and we could ream them and, go after them and kind of damage our relationship. Or we could just pick them up and eat them and see if our eyes water.
Breathe on them with our fiery hot breath.
Yeah.
At 8 a.m. Good morning.
Extra dragon breath.
Yes.
All right. Those are the Proverbs of the day.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah. We love you guys.
Happening on Sunday. So we'll see you soon.
Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Sunday evening, 6:30. Guest speaker, Ryan Searles. It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be so good.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.